Good morning, and thank God it's Friday. Hi, hello, people. The very last Friday in the month of January, by the way, and the very last weekend in the month of January. So, is it just me, or this January like really went by really fast? Unlike all of the Januaries where we have like 5 years inside one January, and then you have to like keep waiting and keep waiting for January to come to an end. But today, very very beautiful day, the 27th of January 2023, and there's a whole lot that's we're looking or there's a whole lot that's going to be happening at the end of this month. By 29th of January, that will be the last day for collection of PVC. So if you haven't picked up your PVC, well, you still have today, you have tomorrow, and you have Sunday. 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can go to any of the INEC local government offices closest to you, or where you registered, sorry, rather, and pick up your PVC. Very, very important. Okay, you have up until 29th of January. More importantly, or the bigger one, or the big one, is the validity of the old Naira notes. Okay, so that is going to end by 31st, and that's on Tuesday. So by 1st of February, as at today, because we have not heard anything from the CBN governor, although there's been some interesting back and forth between the CBN and the National Assembly. But as of now, as of right now, the 31st is still sacrosanct. So if we are working with that, that means that by 31st of February, by 1st of February, sorry, all old Naira, the old Naira notes, that's 200 Naira, 500 Naira, 1000 Naira, would no longer be legal. Okay, so if you still have it in your possession, please do and go and spend it, or go and deposit it or something. Just do something with it. I don't know if we all saw the video or the pictures of the Keke Marwa and heap of thousands of Naira inside of it. It's interesting how, I don't know why people keep such amount of cash in their possession, but then that's the reality, and that's one of the things that a lot of people that's why a lot of people are at home or are comfortable with the new policies coming from the CBN. That okay, it is actually exposing a lot of people. It's bringing it's bringing a lot of things out. It's making a lot of things come to realization of a lot of people. But then is it worthwhile? I mean, the fact that by 1st of February, despite the fact that banks are not paying, some banks are not even opening some banks are not even opening for customers to come in and do transactions. But then it's trends in the papers. We're looking through trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. I have The Nation, The Guardian, The Punch, and Vanguard newspaper. We'll be looking through the front pages, the stories on the front pages. My name is Omobola Sandra, and Fuhad Sahid will also be joining in via the phone line as we dig deeper into the stories on the front pages. Good morning, Fuhad.
Good morning, Sandra. Thank God it's Friday.
Yes, yes, please, yes. All right, so let's get on with it. I'll start with The Nation newspaper. All right, let's move as quickly as possible. But before I do just that, I'm sure we've all been hearing the jingle as regards those who are trying to purchase their JAM forms, or you're having issues, and you have your WAEC already, where you have you have a very good result. Please do well to send a text message. We've been receiving calls on that number, and no one is going to pick your call. Send a text message or a WhatsApp message to the number 091 36 000 420 091 36 000 420. A text message or a WhatsApp message, your name, your phone number, and your house address. All right, and then we'll get in touch with you if you are a part of the lucky 100. All right, so because we keep getting phone calls, and nobody's going to pick up that call. Okay, so let's get back to trending stories on the front pages of our papers. I'll start with The Nation newspaper. Petrol crisis, PDP colluding with saboteurs, says Tinubu. Atiku trying to pit Tinubu against Buhari. Protesters block Benin Lagos road. So what we have, still continuation of the conversation on Wednesday. Remember, we dropped it as it was dropping on ballot 23 on Wednesday. The statement from the presidential candidate of the APC at Abeokuta, and there's been a lot of follow up to that particular one. Some people are saying that what exactly is happening in the APC is Well, with body language and everything, there's been a lot of speculations as regards whether or not the president, is actually pushing for the success of the presidential candidacy of, or the candidature of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But now we are also getting still that APC candidate Asiwaju Bola Tinubu is saying that the PDP has colluded with saboteurs to create the fuel crisis. And he said that the opposition party was sabotaging the petrol supply to blackmail the federal government to gain political advantage. And if we look, yes, and if we look into this story, so if the PDP, if Asiwaju is saying that Alhaji Atiku or that the PDP itself, the party itself, is colluding with the federal government consists of members of the ruling party. The president is a member of APC. The minister of petroleum, who doubles as the president, is a member of the APC. All the ministers are all members, of the APC. The minister of state for petroleum is also a member of APC. So what exactly is Asiwaju trying to pull at, saying that the PDP is working with the federal government against his
not candidate. The federal government. He says he's working with
saboteurs. Okay. Oh, yeah. I apologize. That's true. Because the reason why I said federal government here is because I saw federal government here is saying that the opposition was sabotaging the petrol supply to blackmail the federal government. Yes, that's why I got here. Apologies for that misinformation. But what exactly do you think? Or what exactly do you think Asiwaju is driving at? Do you think he's trying to correct what he said at Abeokuta?
Well, if you read the story further, he clarified it the more by saying that during the 16 years of the PDP, they had issued licenses to their friends and cronies who have become some sort of cabal in the oil sector. And so what happens is that this time, the PDP is working with these guys in the oil sector to create this artificial scarcity to score political points and, of course, make things difficult for the APC and all of that. Now,
I understand where you are coming from. That's okay. It's a generational thing. It's something that is long, way past, No,
I'm not even justifying his statement. I'm just trying to explain what he said further. Now, this is it, Sandra, for me. When he made that statement, it was an incomplete statement.
Thank you.
So
that's where I'm going.
Manner of speculation.
That's where I'm going, because I wanted to say, okay, fine, I get all of that, but is he trying to cleanse, the air as regards what happened or his statement? Because if you look at the statement on Wednesday, what he said at Abeokuta, he didn't mention party, he didn't mention PDP, he didn't mention opposition. He just said saboteurs.
So what I'm saying, Sandra, is that he himself allowed for all of that speculation, because if you say, if you like, keep the oil, if you like, keep the fuel, if you like, cause scarcity, and then if you like, change the ink on the naira, we are going to vote and we're going to win. So people felt, it is the government that is in charge of these things. So if you say they are the saboteurs, it means you are attacking your own party and the federal government, and by extension, the president himself. So now he has come to say, what he's saying is that, look, during the 16 years of the PDP, they had issued licenses to a lot of people who are, holding the oil sector ground and are the ones causing this artificial scarcity and all of that. Well, like I said, I'm not justifying what he's saying. I think my own takeaway from this issue is this, Sandra. The reality is that there are saboteurs in the oil sector. Whether they are sabotaging Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the federal government, or the Nigerian people, is something that I'm sure with time we'll be able to unravel. But the reality is that indeed there are people in the oil sector who deliberately cause it. We kept asking, Sandra, this scarcity, how did this suddenly happen? What happened to the supply? And then the criminal silence from the NNPC, you had the major marketers telling us one thing, the independent marketers telling us another thing, and then there's dead silence from the NNPC, and then the federal government is not saying anything. So there's a reality that there's a conspiracy against the Nigerian people. So if Asiwaju is now also suffering from that conspiracy and sabotage, well, that's left for him to deal with. The reality is that indeed the oil sector needs a lot of cleaning up There's so much corruption in that sector. There are cabals in that sector. There are enemies of Nigeria in that sector. And we need a president. And that was why we said when the president made himself the Minister of Petroleum, a lot of people like us celebrated then, hoping that we are going to see the needed change in that sector, because we thought we had seen a president that was bold enough to clean the mess and the rot in that sector. Here we are almost 8 years. The rot has gotten deeper. It's even worse than we are thought. So this left for Nigerians to look at this thing, make informed decision about some of these things, and then of course see them react at the polls. The other one, Sandra, and I think Nigerians should also sit back and answer this question. You know, and these are questions we've been throwing out for people. It's not just about the sentiments and the emotions of the issues. It's about critical thinking. We should ask ourselves, the NNPC says it's a major importer of fuel, but we know that it contracts this thing out to people. The second one is that who are the major owners of the major retailing outlets in the country? The third question would be, who are the owners of the refineries outside of the country that has made it seemingly difficult for our own refineries to work? Because all of these are crude oil are taking some refineries abroad. Who are the owners of those refineries? The oil swap, the crude swap that we do, who are the people in charge of that swap? Where are the refineries and who are the not the refineries that we take this crude to? And then who are the guys that also own the vessels? All of the vessels that bring in the fuel, the refined fuel into this country. Also the private depot, who are the owners of these private depots? Sandra, if we're able to dig out all of this information, I am sure somewhere, somehow, we'll be able to dig out the real enemies of Nigeria from all of this information. But the reality is indeed that, look, there are enemies of the nation in the oil sector. Whether at the level of the NNPC, major marketers, independent marketers, importers, depot owners, we need a president that will be bold enough to clean the mess and the rot in that sector. Asiwaju, for me, I think it's a comfortable excuse. He's trying to clear the mess. He's trying to clear the statement. But I'm sorry, it's not completely tenable for me. If he says that, look, the PDP should licensing to people in the oil sector and the ones sabotaging it, is the PDP in charge of the change of the Naira note? The CBN governor was appointed by this president, was kept by this president, and it's his policy. So it also means that for him to have mentioned the change of the Naira in Abeokuta, he's also attacking this government. So again, Nigerians should listen and make informed decision about some of these things.
Thank you very, very much. Just as I was saying, I was going to get to that, but thank you for actually bringing that up. Because I'm looking at it from the point of, is Asiwaju trying to clear the air as regards his statement? Because it was quite an ambiguous statement that he made on Wednesday in Abeokuta, and it brought a lot of speculations that we had to have that conversation on Ballot 23 as regards is Tinubu campaigning for himself or for APC generally, or is the APC even campaigning for for
working against him
or working against him? We had to have that conversation after that statement that he made in Abeokuta. And still on that particular story, we also have that there are protests also going on as regards the fuel scarcity issues, or there was a protest that protesters block Benin Lagos Road. Still on that particular one. All right, more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper, with Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu saying that the PDP colluding with saboteurs, saying that they are trying to cause a conflict between him and President Muhammadu Buhari, and that their efforts will fail. All the details we have starting from the front page to page 4. Moving on now, we also have why polls must count, and that is coming from Obasanjo and Wike, former President Obasanjo and Governor of Rivers State Wike. So for what we were watching the international conference that was held at Port Harcourt yesterday.
Rivers State, yeah.
Yes. And we were saying a lot of things as regards that particular one, but as regards that, I think the Nation is not getting their numberings today
correctly.
No, starting from the major headline until this one. So I'm getting different stories, but not according to the pages that they put on the front page. But that happened yesterday in Port Harcourt, from Obasanjo. Also, Peter Odili, interestingly, was also at that particular event. That was quite an interesting one. He's been someone that has not been on the political scene for quite some time now. And especially one would think that these are people that were very powerful in those days, especially even as a former governor of the state. And also it was quite an interesting one, seeing a reunion between Peter Odili and former President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Was that a reunion or an handshake at arm's length?
Did you see the handshake?
It was a very funny handshake.
Why are they shaking themselves like that? And why did Baba respond like that?
But for people who followed the events at that time, they will know how the presidential ambition of Peter Odili was quashed by Baba himself. He was a very strong governor. Of course, any governor of Rivers State is better to be strong. They have the war chest financially to be able to run any presidential race. So I remember then Odili was already out campaigning. He wanted to become president. Baba had a different idea. He wanted the Yaradua. And, you can remember the episode of the EFCC and all of the things, and eventually the Supreme Court giving judgment, a perpetual injunction that Odili should no longer be investigated, So, for people who followed the events at that time, they will understand why the handshake was not that cordial,
All right. Well, let's move on from that. I doubt I've just gone through the pages of the Nation newspaper. That story is not in there. All right, moving on. We also have anxiety in Osun APC and PDP ahead of verdict. So yes, today is the day that the judgment is going to come from the tribunal. So we'll know what exactly will be happening in Osun State politics. But that's that about that. More details on page 29 of the Nation newspaper. Okay, and we also have here 324 Ondo civil servants risk being declared ghost workers. How are they risking being declared ghost? If they are ghost workers, there's no risk. That means they don't exist. So
they did a verification exercise and they didn't show up.
That means they don't exist. Well, what we have is that Ondo State government has threatened to declare 324 civil servants as ghost workers if they fail to sort out issues before February 15th. And those affected were said not to have their PIN. They don't have PIN.
Oh, okay.
They don't have a personal identification number. And there are also other anomalies, which will make them face the possibility of being declared. So they should sort that out, and then we'll know if some people will be without work by end of February. More details on page 29. Also, Nigerians to buy shares with short codes. So Nigerians will soon start buying shares and other securities at the stock market using USSD, that's unstructured supplementary service data. The use of USSD is a collaborative arrangement being championed by the Nigerian Stock Exchange in partnership with telcos, banks, and other stakeholders. And that is to make it a more flexible approach for people who would like to purchase shares. So all you would have to do is dial a code, and then the money will be deducted from your account, and then you're officially a shareholder. I'm sure there will be other, in-office process that will still, because I don't know, but let's trust this one. If there will be, you will get to know when that time comes. That's on page 29 of the Nation. Now, this is a very interesting story, Fuhad. The House is threatening the governor of Central Bank with arrest over Naira note scarcity. And what we have in this report is that the National Assembly leadership is to seek an audience with the president over the insistence of the CBN on its January 31st deadline for the phasing out of old Naira notes. And the speaker has disclosed this after they had a meeting, and Godwin Emefiele has failed to appear before the National Assembly. His bank directors have failed to appear before. They keep inviting them. They don't go. And now the speaker has threatened to invoke relevant sections of the law for the police to compel Emefiele's appearance before the House. Do you think it's something that the president is going to?
Constitution.
Yes.
Well, that's Section 89 of the Constitution that gives the power to the Assembly to perform oversight functions and invite heads of our state house agencies, ministries, to answer questions, especially when it comes to public issues like this, issues of public interest like this. And again, we have to be careful some of the things we encourage or we try to promote. We should be a country governed by laws, rules, regulations, and procedures. The National Assembly, no matter how we want to fault their positions and posturing on issues, they are still the representatives of the people. And they have the right and oversight function to perform when things like this come up. I have to say that it's completely responsible for the CBN to have ignored all of the invitations of the National Assembly. I think even this recent excuse by the CBN is even very funny. As we speak, he said, look, the governor is saying he can't attend because he's out of the country with the president. Hey, what is he going around with the president for, really? When we have issues of this note that is causing a lot of confusion, one would expect that just after returning from vacation, he's going to put his butt down, sit down, and do the job, and answer the questions of ordinary Nigerians. Here is around John Kennedy again with the president. For almost how many months he wasn't in the country, his whereabouts was a mystery. He's back now. He had questions to answer about terrorism, financing, and all of that. Now he has come back now to sit down at home and answer Nigerians and clear the air on so many issues. He's giving excuses, and this is a CBN governor that has immersed himself with all manner of controversy and crisis. From when we were wondering whether he was a politician and all of that, to now that we don't even understand what is going on with the new note, the deadline, and all of that. And then for you to answer, it's also a CBN governor that seems not to want to answer any question or get accountable to anybody. He thinks the only person he should account to is the president, and I don't know where he's getting the idea from. He's the CBN governor of Nigeria, not the CBN governor of President Muhammadu Buhari. Because he seems to think that the only person he should account to is the president. The reality is that there are still questions about this new note. Yes, we agree that the policy may have been from good intentions, to fight vote buying, to fight banditry and all of those kind of things, kidnapping and ransom payment. But what of the implementation? Whether we like it or not, the implementation is completely faulty, Sandra. As we speak, there's a lot of confusion out there. There are people now who are rejecting the old note. And we say these things. Let us leave politics aside. It is not every Nigerian that plays politics with their life. There are ordinary Nigerians who just want to go about their daily living and do their normal transactions, caught in this web of complete confusion from the lack of proper thinking from the CBN.
Thank you very much.
And I agree with the House that they can invoke that section of the Constitution to get him arrested or his directors come and answer questions.
All right. Thank you very much. So, just as you have said, the House has also said that the refusal of the CBN or managing directors to heed the invitation is just an evidence of a blatant disregard for the well-being of the Nigerian people who are their customers, and they are saying that it's also an insult to the authority and prerogatives of the People's Parliament. Okay, so just as Fuad has also mentioned, the fact that the excuse or the most recent excuse of the CBN governor's absence from appearing before the Parliament is that he's out of the country with the president in Dakar. The president went for a conference on agriculture. I'm wondering what exactly the CBN governor is supposed to, what input is supposed to have on in that one. But then that's another way because I'm trying to understand what exactly he's going to, and just as Father has also mentioned, he is supposed to be the CBN governor or the Central Bank of Nigeria, and if Nigerians are calling for your attention as regards a particular issue, it's only responsible that you attend to it, because what we have now is the NLC is saying right now the commercial banks are culpable of inflicting hardship on Nigerians, because if you go to the ATM point, you see what is happening. Yesterday at the ATM point, you see queues. It was almost like there's queue at the petrol station, there's queue at the banks. What exactly is happening in this administration? Everybody is just, it's like everybody are just taking their hands off.
And there's too much confusion and suffering, needless confusion.
It's like everybody has taken their hands off the console, like, okay, autopilot, and everybody just left their jobs and they're just going about doing nothing. And then in recent times, you hear the president saying, no, none of his ministers are, really involved with campaigns due to the fact that he wants them to concentrate on their jobs. But then you have issues, so many issues. The transport sector is in total disarray. You have railway lines being sabotaged. You have railway lines people being kidnapped at rail stations. You have queues at the petrol stations. You have queues at the banks, and there's nothing anybody is saying.
People are being bombed in the north, Sandra, Nasarawa, Niger.
People are being bombed, exactly, and it's just so unfair. Actually, I'm just going to put that out there. It's so unfair of this administration, the fact that everybody is just looking away from this. But then, more details of that on page 28 of The Nation. The House is threatening to arrest the CBN governor. Whether or not you'll be able to get away with this one, I mean, he was able to get away with once a month ago when there were stories that, you know, the DSS wanted to arrest him on terrorism financing. We still haven't heard anything as regards that. Was he investigated? Was he questioned? Did he answer to that? No. And now we have the fact that people are in serious pain over this Naira notes. There are some, Fuad, I'm sure you've seen some organizations have already put out circulars that from Monday they are not going to be collecting old Naira notes again.
Yes, of course, a lot of
hospitality, you know, they have come out and said, okay, we are not going from this day, we are not going to be collecting. Some I even say from this Saturday, they are not collecting. I know of a particular, phone selling company. They said from Saturday, they're not going to be collecting old Naira notes again. And then where is the CBN governor? Why do we keep looking for him? So, more details on page 28.
Was really faffing around doing nothing.
Of The Nation newspaper. Moving on now, we also have here CBN plans all card transactions through Afrigo. Domestic card has been launched. That is on page 7 of The Nation newspaper. Okay, what we have as regards that one is that there's been an unveiling of the Nigeria National Domestic Card yesterday, and the CBN said all card transactions carried out in Nigeria will now be done through Afrigo. Afrigo is Nigeria's response to MasterCard, Visa, all the card companies, or all other payment cards across the world. So the CBN governor made the disclosure during the launch of the card at a virtual ceremony. We're launching things virtually now. What?
We're just throwing everything up at the same time. So much is coming up from the CBN at the same time. There are no clear explanations on some of these monetary policies. And, sometimes, again, this news of us having one singular card that would eradicate the use of MasterCards and all of these other cards came up, and we said, look, we'll be waiting for an official statement maybe from the CBN. Now he has launched this. What is the intention behind this? What are the advantages? What are Nigerians supposed to expect from this? So you leave Nigerians asking too many questions. Amidst this confusion of the design of the Naira note, there's even this issue of the withdrawal limit. That one still there. It's not completely resolved. And here you have the CBN governor who thinks the best thing to do at this time is to go to Dakar with the president on an agriculture summit. I don't know whether that he wants to come and teach us how to do agree or his agricultural financing that is so important to him. That I can't just sit down, put his butt there and do the job Nigerians have appointed him to do. So again, too many things happen. And then you may want to ask yourself, why do we have to do some of these things very close to elections when you are going to transit to a new government? Why not keep some of these policies in the cooler for the new government to grind out and see whether it's even beneficial to Nigerians and the plans of the new government? Why doing everything, rushing everything at this late hour of this administration?
All right, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on now, that's on page 7 of The Nation newspaper. We also have Nigeria's elites are selfish, says Buhari, and President praises Masari. So that's on page 29 of The Nation newspaper. Okay, and what we have that particular one, we'll see. Some members of the elite are selfish and do not care about the country's progress. And that's what the president himself said yesterday. And he said that is why he's criticizing them. The president was at Katsina State yesterday, where he had lunch with the state government. There was a lunch in his honor. And he said, or he lamented, wasted resources by previous administrations that could have gone into infrastructure when a barrel of crude oil sold for $100. So He gave a lot of comparison between 1999 and 2015. He also gave comparison of between 2015 and 2023, saying that our elites did not put their heads together in the years past to move the country forward. They were very selfish. I insist that they should think of the country more than themselves. By doing so, they can join forces for the good of the country. He also said that he believes that history will be kind to his administration, going by the difference that has been made in security and the economy. That is coming from President Muhammadu Buhari as regards the state of the nation.
Well, Sandra, just a minute to comment on this. I thought that the president by now would have been tired of the blame game. Still talking about the 16 years of came into power and all of that. And really, we knew that there were these issues. We knew that the beats had not done well. That was why he was elected in 2016 to come in and to correct some of the things that we had seen as misgovernance for 16 years of the PDP. But here we are, we need to ask ourselves if he has done anything better than what we got in 16 years from the PDP. But there are people who argue that things have gotten worse off for Nigerians in the last 16 years. So I have thought that if he's talking about the elite, he needs to ask himself, he's not also part of the elite that we're talking about. And then one of the things I think that Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari needs to understand is that he's not also completely clean about some of the things he encourages. You have a president that on one hand is condemning the elite. On the other hand, you see him also encouraging some of the misbehavior of the elite within his government. Look at the behavior of the Minister for Labour, for example. Look at the behavior of the Attorney General, for example, on a lot of things. Look at the behavior, for example, of the governor of Kogi State, who the president seems to look away from a lot of times. So he has a posturing of, on using one hand to condemn misbehavior from the elite, and on the other hand, you see him observing and encouraging and even looking away when some of the elites around him misbehave. Look at the misbehavior of the CBN governor too, when he got himself immersed in politics. The president condemned it. He didn't make any statement about it. So we should spell some of these narrations and understand that, look, a lot of us expected so much from me and he has disappointed us.
All right. Well, more details on page 29 of the Nation newspaper. Moving on now, we also have here Pantami saying 2.2 million jobs created in 2 years. And that is coming from Isa Pantami. Yes. All right. And what the report is giving us is that the federal government is saying the digital economy sector alone created 2.2 million jobs for Nigerians in the last 2 years. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isa Pantami, he said this at the 19th edition of President Muhammadu Buhari administration scorecard series yesterday in Abuja. And the minister said his ministry scored A in all the 8 priority areas assigned to it by the president. That's on page 20. Apologies. That's on page 6, rather, of the Nation newspaper. I also have here immigration processes 9.3 million passports in 7 years. That's also on page 6 of the Nation, where we have the Interior Minister Rauf Aregbesola has said the Nigeria Immigration Service processed and issued 9.31 million passports between 2015 and 2022. But the minister said last year alone, the NIS processed over 1.89 passports, 1.89 million passports, showing a higher demand for the nation's passport more than at any other time. Is that a good one, or I don't know? Isn't it that attributed to the jackpot bug that's happening, or are people like just really very patriotic and they just want to have their international passports?
I think he has to know it's part of the jackpot bug. People are processing these things to leave the country, majorly. And I don't know why, issuing of passport is supposed to be an achievement. These things are supposed to be so seamless. But again, people will still tell you that even getting your passport is not as easy as one would have thought. There are still quite a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of, sharp practices involved with the process. So
right.
I think he just wants to put out his scorecard of having done well, with the issuance of passport. But again, I don't think it's anything that we need to continue to talk about. It should be a normal thing for Nigerians. You want your passport, you do the right things, and you get it. It's supposed to be a seamless thing.
Okay. All right. And if you look down to the paper, you also see on that particular report, you also see the report of the number of Nigerians that renounced their citizenship, saying that in 2022 alone, 159 Nigerians renounced their citizenship. More details on page 6 of the nation.
Pick up.
Yes. They are no longer Nigerians.
Yeah, I know they do again.
Yes.
That's interesting. That people can actually renounce their citizenship.
Yes.
That's interesting to me.
Yes. Yeah. You know, there are some countries that before you become their citizens, you can't be a dual
You must renounce. Okay. Not you can't have dual citizenship
in some countries. Yeah.
Okay.
Very unfortunate. All right. Still on trends in the papers. We're looking through trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. We're just through with the Nation newspaper. We're moving on to the Guardian newspaper. And the major headline, Stampede as Nigerians tackle CBN deadline on cash swap. And a lot of riders to that. One, Gbajabiamila threatens Emefiele with arrest over non-appearance. We're bound by CBN's guidelines, banks tells reps. NLC charges CBN to extend deadline. Don approaches court to restrain CBN and Emefiele on deadline. CBN unveils domestic cash scheme. Buhari's visit hampers business activities and Naira swap in Katsina. Bank workers count bulk cash manually as machines break down. Scarcity of new notes threatens POS operators. Please, before we go further, there's still other riders. Some POS operators are charging more for new notes.
Because they're probably struggling to get the new notes too. They tell you what they have to go through to get the new notes and that. Because again, I'm not justifying it. I'm saying that some of them, but some of them have to explain. They have to explain what they have to go through, the pains they have to go through to get these new notes. You understand that? It's crazy.
All right, and then we also have Act Now. Nigerians facing hardship over fuel scarcity, new notes. Ghana tells federal government. And finally, Emefiele not bigger than National Assembly, says MBF spokesman. So, from all parts of the country, Nigerians are a little bit agitated and confused over the currency redesign policy of the CBN. Whether or not 31st is going to fly, it's a serious issue on the table. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's a serious issue on the table for a lot of people. And there are some people that even up until now, they still haven't seen the new notes. They don't even know what it looks like. So,
I'm even looking at the rural areas, Sandra. I'm even more concerned about the rural areas, the ordinary people in the rural areas who just need somebody to cash to live their normal lives. A lot of unbanked areas. In fact, I think from one of the reports, Borno State is trying to make arrangements for makeshift banks and microfinance banks to ensure that people are able to really get access to these new notes to live their normal life. So I look at all of these things, and you have a CBN government that seems not to be open to the reality on ground. I don't know really where all of that is coming from. But there's a lot of confusion out there, Sandra, honestly.
All right, well, more details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper, still on the CBN deadline and cash swap and the invitation from the House of Assembly. We also
have most ATMs are not dispensing now because of it. I think there's this policy that no ATM now should dispense the old note. So what the banks do is that if you don't have the new note, the ATM would not dispense. So the few ones that dispense, if you see the crowd, the queues there. I think it was one comedian that put it out there that which of the queues are you going to choose now? Whether are you queues for your PVC, queues for fuel, or queue for new notes?
Which one are you queuing for?
And you see the wala.
All right, we also have on the front page of the Guardian, ICPC uncovers fresh evidence, rearrests ex-JAMB registrar Ojerinde, and that's on page 3. excuse me, and that's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. So the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, rearrested a former registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAM, Professor Adedibu Ojerinde, in Abuja, and his rearrest followed a warrant issued by the Federal High Court. And the ICPC spokesperson, Azuka Ogugwa, who disclosed this, said Ojerinde is expected to face a team of investigators over new evidence in relation to his ongoing trial over alleged diversion of funds while he was a public officer. Okay, and what we have now is that the ICPC uncovered 2 accounts opened in the names of Trillium Learning Center and Sapati International Schools, into which funds were diverted using fictitious names of students. And they invited the former registrar for questioning in December over new evidence, but he wrote through his lawyer requesting a 14-day grace to enable him honor the invitation. So he needed 14 days to prepare. However, Ojerinde has refused to honor the invitation even after the 14 days window expired. And now, in course of their ongoing investigation, they have uncovered evidence suggesting that Ojerinde is the sole signatory to the various bank accounts operated in the name of Trillium Learning Center Limited and Sapati International School Limited, and that he operated these accounts using false identities and forged documents in the names of Joshua Olakunle and Olaniro and Akombi Lamidi, respectively. More details on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. All the best to Professor Ojerinde. I didn't criticize Buhari over fuel scarcity in Naira redesign. I only offered advice. Tinubu clarifies. That's on page 7. I'm interested in the advice. Let's see what we have in the report of page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. So what we have is that the presidential candidate of APC, Bola Tinubu, has faulted the notion in certain quarters that he tackled the President Muhammadu Buhari administration over the lingering fuel scarcity and Naira redesign policy. So the Director of Media and Publicity of the APC Campaign Council, Presidential Campaign Council, Bayo Ononuga, insisted that the PDP, in cahoots with fifth columnists, were the ones bent on inflicting avoidable pains on hapless Nigerians to achieve political ends. And he tackled rivals for issuing a knee-jerk response, derailing from the issues, distorting his views at the Abeokuta rally to create a wedge between him and the president. And he said, when the guilty are afraid of being uncovered, they try to push back with red herring. For the records, Asiwaju Tinubu, during APC campaign at Abeokuta, in his statement, did not mention, blame, or accuse President Muhammadu Buhari for the current challenges in the country. It was only drawing the government's attention to the sabotage being carried out by some fifth columnists in the system, possibly working in cahoots with the PDP. So I know we've talked about this already, but then, I mean...
let's just put it into proper perspective.
Yes.
If Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu had only limited what he said to the oil sector, maybe this explanation...
So who sabotaged?
What do we say to that? What would Bayo Ononuga say to that?
That's the thing. So that's where we are now, because fine, he didn't mention name, but neither did he mention opposition. He didn't mention opposition either.
You know these spokespersons, Sandra, you know these spokespersons who are trying to do damage control. Sometimes they make more damage. I think you'll be following the story from the bullion van. When even Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself, during that time, admitted that all his money, and he's a private citizen now, that he has never been in government. And that why would anybody question him the way he wants to receive his money? And then somebody is saying that those bullion vans make their way. That was how they entered. Some of these guys just calm down. And if they want training, they are going to do this job. Just simple public relations. This is just 2-3 months course. You get to understand how this thing happens.
Okay, so that's on page 7. AFD's march against tuition fee hike and loan bill in Gombe. That is on page 42 of the Guardian newspaper. I'll just quickly read through what that one is saying. So what we have, okay, students drawn from the night and the education loan bill, and they're wielding placards. They're saying, we want a secured future for all students. And the national coordinator, Coalition of Northern Group Students Wing, Emuse Bokunga, said the hike in university tuition, as new students will have to give up their dreams of acquiring higher education. And that is on page 42. Meanwhile, Governor of Yobe State, Mai Malabuni, has engaged 2,670 university and other graduates to serve the state in the education, health, environment, and agriculture sectors. The details are on page 42 of the Guardian newspaper. Also, very quickly, let's see what we have trending from the front page of the Punch newspaper. Major headline on the front page of the Punch: mega churches, schools bar old Naira notes payments and offering. So there are riders to that. New notes shortage forces banks to shut ATMs as customers demand extension. Reps threaten Emefiele with arrest. Insists CBN governor must obey summons. Law professor sues CBN. NLC writes Buhari over deadline extension. That's on page 20.
Standard. There's somebody in court already. A professor of law has already approached the court, against this policy of the deadline particularly. The deadline should be so. Someone is in court on behalf of Nigerians already. Yeah.
We'll see how far that goes. That's on page 21 of the Punch newspaper. We also have here Katsina youth protest hardship. Stones on his first day in the state. The youths had a protest at the Kofa Kaura underpass in Katsina, and the protesters caused a commotion where they threw stones at the crowd after the president left the area. They also set up bonfires in some areas, and they were shouting, "We don't need you, we no go do," and they were shouting all of that in Hausa. That's on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And also we have here on the front page of the Punch, AGF pays $446 million Ajakuta judgment debt. That's on page 24 of the Punch newspaper. Very quickly, what we have from that one is that the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, has said that the federal government has paid a total of $446 million to clear off a judgment debt on the Ajakuta Steel Company. And he said, in his remarks, he also accused the presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar, of being deceitful in his campaign promise to resolve the problems facing the Ajakuta Steel Company. That's interesting. All right, well, that's on page 24 of the Punch newspaper. Okay, we also have here Adeleke versus Oyetola. Let's not forget that's happening today. The tribunal will be ruling, and then we will see what exactly will be happening. The police has already warned troublemakers ahead of this particular one. Let's all comport. Yesterday was an unfortunate one as traders bemoan losses at Balogun Market. A 5-story building was fire gutted yesterday on Bajumo Street at Balogun Market. It was quite a very unfortunate one. All right, that is all that we can take, unfortunately, this morning on trends in the papers. I'll be back by 8:40 for Mainland Focus. We'll open up the phone line and then have a conversation as regards one or two focal points for this morning. You're listening to 98.3 Mainland FM, and I will be right back. Stay with us.